All right, we will call this meeting to order, starting with the determination of the quorum. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, we have 6 present and 1 absent, so we do have a quorum.
All right, next we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all for joining us this evening. Next up on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I want to make a quick comment. Under community comment, you'll see a business item added. And I wanted to sort of itemize that within the agenda as it should be. We're gonna make that item 8D. However, we will be putting it right after community comment. I just wanted to, it is part of the finances of the district, but we're moving it forward because our auditors has multiple presentations this evening, and so they would appreciate having it move forward. So we'll have item 8D, approve the 2012-2013 audit report. That will come immediately after the community comment. So with that suggested change, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First on the agenda, item 3, recognition and awards. This evening there are none. And so that brings us right into community comment. We have a 3-minute limit per speaker and a 15-minute limit per topic for any member of the community to come forward at this time and address the board.
Thank you. Do I need to sign in here?
Yes, yeah, you could just state your name as well.
Yes, my name is Chuck Godwin. My topic is regarding the lockdown of last week. I'll do my best to get everything in 3 minutes. I have my questions and comments pre-prepared, which I will gladly tear out of my notebook if that's helpful. But are we being recorded?
Yes, we are.
You can reference my questions and comments later if need be.
Sure.
Okay.
And to clarify, this isn't a question and answer period, so we'll take comments in the.
Okay, no problem. My wife and I lived in Faribault for 23 years, and our daughters attended the schools here. In the days before school security measures were necessary, before cameras and so on. I'll start by referencing the newspaper article. And my first comment question has to do with this term, soft lockdown. The picture here of the notice that was at Jefferson School does not look soft to me. And what this leads me to ask you is, I think there needs some clarification in the community about this term, soft lockdown, and I assume there's a hard lockdown, okay? The impression given in this picture here is that of a hard lockdown. Nobody in and out, and so on. So clarification needed on that. Next we have this term, a potential threat. And, oh, by the way, I have been a high school social studies teacher, and I continue to follow developments in our country regarding politics and law. And along with many Americans, I have been concerned about the erosion of civil liberties in the name of keeping us all safe. So that's where I'm coming from here. I'm concerned about the concept of a potential threat. Several Americans have been detained and even jailed before they have committed any crime for being a, quote, potential threat. How does this term stack up legally as it is being used here? And are there any due process procedures in place for those who are so identified, as this man was identified by the district last week, by the police? So the question concerns, are there due process rights to individuals so identified? Does the district have any concerns regarding the impact of this lockdown on students? It seems to me that this practice would unnecessarily create fear in some students. Returning to the paper, we have a statement made that, let's see, on Thursday he visited the high school to speak with administration staff where he was turned away. My question is why was he turned away? And I'm concerned of the general vagueness of the newspaper article. Now, I realize the district has to keep some of these matters out of the public eye. I understand that. But the article creates some vagueness. And I'll give you another example. We have that term potential threat at the beginning of the article. And then later on, we have a quote from the police which says, nobody made a threat or was doing anything threatening. So there's a disconnect here between those two ideas. The next thing I have underlined here, we have another quote from Captain Peterson, which states he was more of a trespasser than anything. Again, this is vague. Was he in fact trespassing? I think that needs to be answered at the very least by the district. So that's what I have to point out from the article. Now to go back to the remainder of my questions. May I continue if I'm a little bit over time?
Well, I would ask you to please finish up in the next minute or so.
Yeah, okay.
We're
I think
well into,
I'll make it.
we're well past 3 minutes already,
All
so
right.
if you could do it quickly.
All right. Okay. Anyway, the article in the paper does not provide much justification for a total district-wide lockdown. Again, Captain Peterson says there was no threat. Does the district have any concerns that this man's reputation may have been damaged? His identity is known by a number of people in Faribault, and in a town like ours, this information will definitely get around. Since this man's identity was known to the district, did anyone attempt to contact him before the lockdown occurred? Did this man cause any disturbance at any time at a Faribault school? Does the district have any concerns at the present about this individual? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community comments at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item in the agenda, which is the approval of the 2012-2013 audit report. Turn that over to Colleen and guest.
Good evening. I have a couple people here tonight. One is Andy Johnson. She's our controller in the district, and part of her responsibilities is to manage and perform all the tasks related to the audit report. So she's here to hear the fruition of all of her hard work here this year. And then we have Kimberly Hilberg. She is with our auditing company, Clifton Larson Allen, and she'll be actually presenting the audit report tonight. But if you have any questions afterward, Andy and I are here to answer those too.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here to present audit results for the year ended June 30, 2013. In front of you, you have three bound documents: the district financial statements, the student activity fund financial statements, and what we refer to as the EAS, or the executive audit summary. This evening, I'm going to be covering the information in the executive audit summary and won't really be going into the financial statements in any great detail. Starting on page 1 of the executive audit summary, we have a synopsis of the audit results. It looks like this. I'll give you an idea of what page we're going to be starting on. The audit opinion is a clean or unmodified opinion that we are issuing as we have in the past. So that means that your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. This year, we did not have any findings related to internal control over financial reporting. We did not have anything in terms of controls over preparation of financial statements, nor did we have anything in terms of journal entries. I can't say that I work with a lot of districts that have that type of scenario, so I think it speaks very highly of people in your business office, the work that they do, not only in preparing for the audit, but putting together the information for the financial report as well. The single audit is the federal piece of our actual financial statement audit, and anytime you spend more than $500,000 of federal financial assistance in any one fiscal year, it triggers a single audit. For 2013, you spent about $3.4 million, to kind of give you a point of reference. We tested 3 programs listed on your summary: Title I, Special Education, and the Child Nutrition Cluster. We did have a couple of findings, but in the grand scheme of things, very minor, easy to resolve, a matter of dotting your I's, crossing your T's, more than anything else. The Minnesota Legal Compliance Guide is something that the Office of the State Auditor has us review compliance with 7 different areas of state statute. When we did our work related to that, we did have a compliance finding related to collateralization of deposits at June 30th, and from what I understand, that's already been resolved and taken care of. And then last but certainly not least are your student activity funds. You do have a separate bound document for their financial statements, as I mentioned earlier. They are prepared on what looks like a cash basis, so it's more like cash balances, what was receipted in, what was paid out. So their financial statements look very different from those of the district. MDE requires that you report in that format, so that's kind of the guidelines for reporting for those activity funds. Because they report in that format and they're different from those of the district's reporting format, they aren't GAAP or the generally accepted accounting principles, and we issue a modified opinion on that. Not that you're doing anything wrong, you're just following the reporting format that MDE requires you to follow. And really, the benefit that you would get from full GAAP statements for those activity funds wouldn't be much in compared to the actual cost and time it would take for you to prepare those statements. And then in terms of compliance for the activity funds, a clean report on that. They have their own compliance guide that we do review and do some audit testing on relative to that, and we didn't have any findings there. So overall, when I look at everything in terms of the audit as a whole, compliance and control-wise, I would say it's a clean year for the district. I'm going to skip over to page 3 of the executive audit summary then, just a reminder that there are estimates embodied within your financial statements. The fact that expenditure data and pupil counts aren't going to be finalized until we hope February or March of 2014, so within the next 3-4 months. So everything that we have here is based on the best available information at the time. However, it's still considered to be an estimate until it's actually finalized by the state. So with that being said, there is some wiggle room, if you will, but management believes that there won't be a significant difference between what is actually finalized and what's currently estimated for those amounts. Pages 6 and 7 then are management letters, just communications. Like I mentioned earlier, we did not have any control findings related to the school district financial statements for financial statement preparation or journal entries, which are probably the 2 most common ones, and you don't have either of those. Student activity funds, because of their very nature, have a control finding related to the receipting process, because their controls over receipts, especially the door-to-door fundraisers, aren't as strong and robust as what the district has for its receipting procedures. It's more or less kind of the nature of the beast, and every district that has these activity funds outside of board control, like what you have this very issue with that. So more or less just kind of calling it to your attention and a reminder. It's been there for the past several years and is something that districts aren't really addressing in that they don't want to have students be discouraged from participating, because oftentimes the controls that it would take to put in place to eliminate the finding would be so cumbersome and complex for students to deal with that it may actually discourage participation in those activity funds, and that's something that districts really don't want to do. Then we're going to skip over to page 11 of your executive audit summary. We have colored copies of the PowerPoint slides for this evening. The first slide we have is an operating summary of the general fund for the year. You can see in total, the general fund went up a little over $600,000 to a total general fund balance, a little over $9.5 million as of June 30th. That's on the far right-hand side. As we move to the left, we have fund balance broken up into different categories. Capital-related restrictions are first with operating capital, health and safety, and deferred maintenance. We have separate slides for those, so I'm not going to discuss those in any great detail here at this moment. The non-capital related restrictions are monies that you receive from the state to be used for specific purposes. If they go unspent at the end of the year, it is required that you set aside that money to be used for those purposes in subsequent fiscal years. You have approximately $30,000 sitting in that category of fund balance, and that's related to staff development dollars. Otherwise, you receive about $6.1 million each year in restricted money and are doing a good job of spending virtually everything that you get for that. Then the far left column is your, what we call unrestricted fund balance, and that's made up of 4 different components, as you can see on the column heading. Non-spendable fund balance would be items that are not easily converted into cash, such as prepaids, inventory. That's about $308,000 of that $9.4 million. Then we have committed fund balance, that's $2 million that's set aside for separation and severance payments in the future. And assigned fund balance is about $5,000, so a little bit set aside there for future years' use. And then the remaining amount is what we call your unassigned fund balance, and that's the next slide. That shows some historical information relative to that. And that's just a little over $7.1 million as you closed out 2013. As auditors, we generally like to take a look at this in relation to annual expenditures because it's a good measurement of financial health of the general fund. And if we do the math, it's right around 17.25%, just shy of that, of annual expenditures. And if we flip over to the next slide, you can see that along with the historical information of where you have been fund balance compared to annual expenditures back to 2009, and you can see that it's been building. We generally recommend a minimum of 8 and 16%, just to kind of give you a 1 to 2 month cushion for operations, and you're right within that. So general fund looks good. One thing I'm going to mention here in relation to fund balance, because I think there's some confusion out there, is the money that the state has been paying back all these school districts didn't impact fund balance at all. It wasn't new revenue. It didn't improve your bottom line at all. What had happened was the state was trying to balance its budget and did that on the backs of school districts across the state and said you can earn the revenue, you can recognize it, and it'll fall into fund balance, but we're just not going to pay you. We're going to give you an IOU, and we'll eventually be good for it and pay it. It may take a couple years, but we will eventually pay it. And now they're coming back to where they are actually paying the money that you had earned all along, they just hadn't given it to you. So the money that you've been receiving, in effect, the cash, is more of a cash flow versus a revenue type scenario for you. And the effect was in 2013, you didn't have to go out and short-term borrow. You had sufficient cash to be able to pay vendors, make payroll payments, and so on and so forth. Continuing on with the slides then that we have, the general fund restricted fund balance is the next slide, and as I mentioned earlier, you have about $30,000 sitting there of staff development dollars that you can be using in future fiscal years. Operating capital fund balance is next, one of your capital related fund balances in your general fund. Just shy of $500,000 at June 30th. This gives you the ability to spend on capital needs as opposed to having to dip into that unassigned fund balance. Now, districts don't have any short list there's a very, very long list of ongoing capital needs, whether it's roofing projects, technology needs, whatever it may be. There's an ever-growing need for these types of capital outlays. So if you have fund balance here, it enables you to pay for it here as opposed to dipping into unassigned fund balance. Health and safety fund balance is next, and as you can see, we're in a deficit in 2013, as we have been for most of the historical trend in this particular graph, and that's really not all that uncommon. From what I understand, there was an error in the levy a number of years ago, and now you're actually getting levy authority to bring this back up to a positive. And a lot of districts will typically see this run in the red because they'll incur project costs and then get the levy authority in future years for that. So it's not all that uncommon to see this particular one have some really high peaks and some low valleys. But you do have future levy authority over the next 3 years to be recovering that deficit that you have in health and safety currently. Food service fund balance is next, and you can see you closed out the year just shy of $400,000. Purchased about $32,000 worth of equipment in the food service fund. And we've been seeing a lot of food service funds decreasing in 2013, a lot of it relating to the decreased participation in the food service program with the nutritional guidelines that were put in place, so that's not all that uncommon. Your food service fund does look healthy. It is still in a place where you do have fund balance, and as auditors, that's what we really look at to make sure that it's self-sufficient and that it's not relying on the general fund for subsidy. Community service fund balance is the next slide that we have. And you have several different categories of fund balance within this particular slide. Two very small deficits that are within here. ECFE is about $1,000, and then the unassigned fund balance is about $2,000. But nothing that would raise any red flags or give any concern because they're so minimal. It's not all that uncommon between differences in budgeting and what actually happens and costs associated with personal screening. It's not all that uncommon to see some of these run into deficits from time to time. Capital project fund balance is next. Here more or less just some historical information. The capital projects fund is starting to get closed down. You're spending your money down. More or less just some a visual of that. And 2014, you should be pretty close to being able to close that out. Debt service fund balance is next, and you can see 2012 was a highly unusual year for your debt service fund. The reason being is you issued some refunding debt, and the money was set aside in an escrow account to be used to pay off debt here in fiscal 13. So you'll see a peak in 12, it's going to go back down in 13 to a more typical level. You refunded about $5.5 million of old debt with new debt that was issued at a lower interest rate. So it's a cost savings to the district when you take a look at that overall. The general fund revenue pie chart is next, and you can see the vast majority of it comes from the state, almost 82%. So any change that the state makes in funding K-12 is going to have a huge impact on that general fund, and that's something that you are very aware of. The local property tax piece is 8.5% with your federal sources of the 4.61 and the other, the 5.57. And then the last slide that we have this evening would be your weighted average daily membership. Now, these aren't necessarily the pupil counts of students that are attending your various school buildings. It's that weighted by grade level. So when we took a look at actual ADMs at the close of the year, you're a little over 3,900 to kind of give you a point of reference. And then when you weigh them all out by grade level based on what the state weightings are, you end up almost 4,600 with that. So in closing, I would say the general fund looks healthy, so does food service and community service fund. Nothing there that really raises any red flags or gives any concern. You still have money set aside for committed fund balance in terms of the actual severance and separation payments, which I think is a good thing. Every district is going to have that at some point in time, and the fact that you have recognized that and formally set something aside just allows you to kind of take that off the plate and know that it's there when you need it, as opposed to having to use that unassigned fund balance. And like I said earlier, overall the audit was good. I would consider it clean. A few minor little things, but if they haven't been resolved already, something easy to take care of, the items noted were. And then your business office does a really good job of preparing everything, and I think that shows in the fact that we don't have any controls over financial reporting that we noted as findings this year.
In your opinion, compared to other schools that you work with? How would you say our district is managed financially?
Good, very well. I think your general fund balance is sitting at within the general recommended guideline, the 8 to 16%. And then you also are able to set aside money for future use. And I think that's something that I personally look at, knowing some point in time down the road you're gonna have retirements and there's gonna be separation, severance payments, and the ability to, at one point in time when you made the decision to set that money aside, I think just shows fiscal responsibility and good financial planning on the district's part, because you know what's gonna happen at some point in time.
How high do you see fund balances go percentage-wise?
It can really vary. I think the highest that I work with is 25 or 26%. And that's a situation where they have increasing enrollment and they just are trying to get a referendum passed to build facilities that they essentially have kind of kids coming out of their ears, if you will. And everything with a lot of it being enrollment driven, it's generating a lot of revenue, and they're just, the expenditures aren't keeping up with what they're currently bringing in for revenue. We all know at one point in time there's generally a tipping point when it starts to go back down. But then I work with other districts that are as low as like 4 or 5%, which is very, very lean. So there's a whole gamut out there.
What about SODs? Any districts that you work with?
Currently, I don't have any. No, actually, I had a couple this year that I was worried that were on the verge last year, looking like they were on the tipping point, and managed to be able to make cuts enough to hold their own. But that's a tough situation as well, because you're always kind of got that in the back of your mind. Did we cut enough to be able to prevent ourselves from going into SOD?
Any other questions at this time? All right, this item does require action. Does it require is it a resolution? Do we need to do a roll call, or just taking ordinary action? It's ordinary action. All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the 2012-2013 audit report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, just comment for Colleen and Andy for all the work that they've done with this audit and all the work that they've done with the business office. They've done an outstanding job, and I can't give them enough praise. And certainly, Kim, thank you for taking the time to come up. Appreciate it. It's been a good audit.
Absolutely, and I'll just add some other comments of how important this process is. When we were out talking about the levy, so many times people want to know that the finances are being handled responsibly, and they don't realize that we go through an audit every single year as required by state law, and also just by, I think, good common sense. That's what you should do with an organization our size. So this is such an important process, and as long as I've been associated with the board, and I'm sure before that, we've had clean audits in this district, and it's been run financially well, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work of the audit, so thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is approved by one motion. There is no discussion on these items, but any board member is allowed to remove any item by request. Are there any requests to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. This requires roll call. Mr. Clerk.
I will vote yes. Tom Casper,
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Richard Olson,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 6 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Next up on the agenda, curriculum. Item 6, curriculum. There is no report this evening, as the curriculum committee has not met this past month. And that brings us to item 7, policy. The policy committee report. We have some minutes attached to the agenda for this meeting. Are there any further comments from the curriculum committee on any of these items?
Policy.
What did I say?
Curriculum.
I said policy committee is what I meant to say. Thank you, Tom.
A mistake I often make myself.
Okay, we can just move into the items too, and any comments can come as we move into the items. So, this starts with, consider the introduction of the following policy for first reading. The item in front of us for first reading is policy 902, use of school facilities and equipment. So for those who might be watching, to approve a policy, the board goes through a two-stage process. First, a first reading where we simply look at it, then it would come back to us in a second reading where the board would take action and put that policy into place. So this item is just up for first reading. Any questions or comments on this item?
Mr. Chair, I would just comment that we had actually gone over this policy in the summer. And after that second reading approval, we had some community members that asked that we relook at the policy in the policy committee, and we did do that. And so we made some changes, and that's what we're bringing again to the board as a first reading. So there were some changes made since the approval in the summer. And I don't know if you want me to highlight any of those, or if people have questions.
Well, I think.
They're highlighted within the agenda, I
Okay.
believe, but.
And I think they largely relate to, there was some lingering confusion about what types of events would be charged for and what types wouldn't, for things like associations.
Yeah.
There's some confusion there, trying to make sure that that we could keep costs reasonable for the associations, for Faribault associations.
So how do we spot the changes, Yvette?
Well, the changes, and I should have looked within the agenda. Are they highlighted within the agenda?
Mm-mm.
So
Not.
the specific change was about the associations, and they fall under class 1 of the rental fees.
Mhm.
This was not the case in the prior. They were under class 1, but there were certain activities that were going to be charged for associations. So now all their activities have been moved to class 1, and please correct me if I'm not explaining this correctly, or we can have Anne Marie also make any comment. So the associations are considered class 1, and their activities are not being charged the hourly fee if you look at the chart. So that was the major change. Previously, we were looking at charging fees for tournaments and camps for associations.
So now I still see sports association tournaments and events that charge admission or team entry fees, except for summer camps, under class 2. Is that right?
Yes, yes, please come up and speak, because I'm not speaking to this.
You did it right. Yeah, that's right.
I can go over the specific changes. If you want to go to page 5.
It's
Well-
56 in the overall agenda, just for those, page 5 of
Okay.
this policy.
Thank you. Under that first paragraph, we wanted to make sure we just incorporated curricular, co-curricular, just basically all of the in-school activities are just free and obviously first priority. Class 1, we added Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. We also added, so that's that second bullet. I can't count. The last 2 bullets under class 1, district school affiliated sports associations, practices and events that do not charge admission or team entry fees. And then also that last bullet under class 1, we added summer camps as well. There will be no cost for association summer camps.
I think maybe the
Yep.
separation is whether they're district associated, Jason. So theoretically, you could have a sports association come in that's not school district associated. Right? So that's maybe what.
I'm not sure, could you clarify that statement?
So I think, Jason, your confusion was under class 2, there is still sports associated
Right, and I still think that, as I read it, and from the first meeting I was at, that would still apply to, say, the Faribault Basketball
Right,
Association.
that is correct.
When they're charging team entry fees.
Yep.
They would
Yes.
still fall under that.
That's
Yep.
right, I'm sorry.
So
But
any,
it would, the goal here, I think, was to include items where
Yep.
teams were coming from out of district. And
Thank
so, something like a tournament
Right.
brings teams from other districts into our community, and then we felt it appropriate to charge for those facilities.
Yep. Yep. Do you want me to continue? I think there's just a couple other additions, but it's,
Sure.
okay.
Please do.
Under class 2, that last bullet, sports association tournaments and events that charge admission or team entry fees, the language in the parentheses was added. We just wanted to make sure that everyone understood it, except for summer camps. And I believe that on page 6, under pool usage, we added language about lifeguards. We want to make sure that that pool is safe for our children and families, and want to make sure that there's a good ratio of lifeguards to children. And on page 8, under tables and chairs, so now I'm looking at equipment rental fees. Tables and chairs, those costs will only be charged to class 2 and 3. And that is it for changes.
Thank you, Emma.
You are welcome.
Any further questions about policy 902? As I said, this is a first reading, so if there are any further questions about it, you'll have, from now until the next meeting, we'd encourage you to bring those to the policy committee and have them answer any questions that you might have before it comes back for a second reading.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Anne Marie.
thanks.
We then have a number of policies in front of us for second reading. These are policies we looked at last month, and they are in front of us this evening for action. Those are policies 610, field trips, policy 709, student transportation safety policy, policy 710, extracurricular transportation. I'd be happy to entertain questions on any of these policies at this time. All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve all three policies at once.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve policy 610 for field trips, policy 709 student transportation safety policy, and policy 710 extracurricular transportation. Any further discussion on these items? Yes?
Yeah, obvious, on the buses, have we had any report from the bus company of, have there been, do they keep track? I would imagine they keep track. Do they report it to you?
Of the students,
Right.
yep, yeah, we do keep track of those, and we make sure that all the students are accounted. If they're not, then we immediately investigate to check to see where that student may or may not be. And, been doing this now for about 30 years, and we haven't lost one child, thank goodness. And, hopefully our bus transportation department is right on top of those things.
You get safety reports or
Yeah.
discipline reports?
Do you get the discipline reports? I think that's pretty much taken care of by the contractor, unless there's a major issue, yeah. The principals will get some of the minor issues to help with the discipline piece of it, but not the district office.
Any further questions on any three of these policies? All right, we have a motion and a second, if my memory serves. Without further question then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With the passage of these policies, we need to rescind some of the policies that were in place before this. So the policies follow the same numbers, slightly different names. So we would need to rescind policy 610, field trips, policy 709, transportation safety, and policy 710, extracurricular transportation policy. I'll entertain a motion to approve rescission of these policies.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to rescind the policies as stated. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all. Next up, item, find myself on the agenda. Item 8, finance. Item 8A, finance committee report. We're missing our esteemed treasurer this evening. Is there another member of the finance committee who would like to give us a report? We do have some attached minutes you'll see.
Go ahead, Richard.
Go ahead there, Howard. Well, we both can do it. Go ahead, you take the first part.
We had a productive meeting and discussed a number of items, including those that'll be presented here shortly. One of the things we talked about was doing a survey of families that have left the district and maybe left for schools outside the community. And in the end, we decided to leave it up to the cabinet to talk about it and bring back a proposal for us, which may or may eventually come to the school board, whether or not we want to spend any money doing a survey of these parents or how we might proceed to try to learn reasons why people have left the district.
Anything to add, Mr. Olson?
Yeah, then further that we're gonna be talking about the debt service and what's gonna be coming up, what's gonna retire. Also, we'll be adding some paraprofessionals in the special ed department.
Okay.
Correct, right? Yeah, that we need for some students that just moved in, that they need more of a one-to-one relationship with that. So it was a good meeting, like Howard said.
All right, excellent. With that, then we'll move into item 8B, which are some of the items just mentioned. Starting with item 8B1, the debt service schedule. We have a report. I'm assuming is that a Colleen item or a?
Yeah, you can take a look at it. It's a schedule of when the bond issues that have been passed in recent memory are ready to expire. If you want more details, Colleen would be certainly more than happy to explain that.
Well, maybe I'll just read a little bit of this off for those who might be watching so that they can have some of this information. There are 4 bond issues listed here, scheduled to come off, some soon, some well into the future. The first one to come off is a $2.5 million capital facilities bond. Currently has $331,000 left in its principal as interest, and it will be ending 12/1/2013, so very soon. The next item is a roughly $19 million school building refunding bonds, and that one has about $6 million left on its principal and interest, which should reduce the levy, I should say, by about $2 million. And it will come off in 6/1/2015. The others are significantly further in the future. Item 3 is an alternate facilities refunding bond. It comes off in 2019, would reduce the levy by $800,000. And then another one that would reduce the levy by $2.3 million is not scheduled to come off until 2024. So approximately 10 years into the future. So to give that information for those who might be watching. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the one you mentioned, number 2 on the list, that's the remodeling the high school, elementaries, and the new elementary, Roosevelt, I think 1995.
Right.
That's we refinanced it, but that was the bond.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So it was a 20-year bond. It'll be coming up roughly 20 years. All right. Next, sorry, was there a question?
Good news.
Good news, absolutely. Good news that within the next couple of years here, we have a couple of substantial bonds coming off of the levies for our taxpayers. Item 8B, the addition of special education paraprofessionals and general education paraprofessional. Who is going to speak to this evening?
Well, I'll start with the Finance Committee. We approved these added recommendations, and these are students that, as Mr. Olson had talked about, are one-to-one paraprofessionals, and we're recommending the board to approve these paraprofessionals for the district.
Are all of these from students moving into the district, or are they students with newly identified needs?
These are all students that are moving within the district. Yep.
Any questions or comments on these items?
Mr. Chair, I did ask the question, Cheryl, that, at this late in the year, can we find, qualified people, and she said yes.
And she's nodding her head in the back, still saying yes.
It's,
For
no one can
those-
see her, but
For those on TV who can't see, that's true. All right. All right. Thank you, that's important.
Once again, this is a good reason why we need to have a fund balance.
Yes, agreed. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the addition of special education for paraprofessionals and general educational paraprofessionals.
so
Move. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
no, please.
Is there a second?
there's
I
a
will
second over
second,
here, I
yes.
think.
Okay, we'll let Kathy sort that out. Thank you, Kathy. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up on the agenda, item 8B3, the addition of one paraprofessional in early childhood.
And again, it's nice, actually a nice segue to talk a little bit about our Pathway to funding, which is the funding that was given to us by the state of Minnesota to help us with families that couldn't afford to go to preschool. And so we're, as a result, able to open it up to 18 new students in our preschool. And so congratulations to Christine and Anne Marie and Cheryl for all your help, because that grant, I think, ended up being about $62,000 that the district received, so that was terrific. So that's good news. The one thing in there too is that we do have a student that does require some paraprofessional help, and at this time we're asking that the district help us out with that cost.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the addition of one paraprofessional in early childhood.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 8B4, the annual service agreement for chillers. This is a service agreement for chillers with Train at the Roosevelt and High School. I'll entertain a motion to approve in a second, and then I'll do some questions.
So move.
We have a motion, is there a second? Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you.
okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this item?
Kevin Hildebrandt assured us that the expertise of Train was definitely above anybody in our district and was badly, was needed. So,
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now move on to item 8C with a number of reports. Those start with the enrollment report, which looks to be roughly in line with the September, October, and November numbers, which are, as we know, are down from the projected, and so something we'll need to keep in mind as we think forward towards budgeting processes. Any questions or comments on that item? Okay. And next, we have our financial report to give us a sense of the spending to date. Any questions or comments on the financial report?
I believe we're gonna redo these charts too, is that
I'm sorry. I was visiting with,
revisit?
yeah, we're okay.
No, we're going to redo these charts so that board can understand them more. Is that right? Howard, did you understand it that way?
We're gonna take a look at what kind of reports we really need and use that might be helpful to us, and we kind of felt that we probably didn't use, we didn't adequately use the kind that we're getting. So the question is, what do we really need? So we're gonna take a look at that and maybe look at some options.
Okay.
If you have any strong feelings about these bar graphs, let us know.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of gifts and donations. So let me list those and then we can move to accept them. We have a number of donations this evening, starting with Target from the amount of $47. Give with Target campaign for McKinley Early Childhood Center. From Walmart, the amount of $700 for the Faribault Senior High CAST program. From the city of Faribault, with the value of $2,000. Exterior building at McKinley Early Childhood Center, which was declared surplus property. Item 4, some donations to the ABLE for bingo, and there's a list of donations all in the range of $10 to $50, and I'll list the organizations that helped with that. Those were the Depot Bar and Grill, Family Video, Bernie's Grill, Boston's, Janet Hair Station, Jimmy John's, Taco John's, Berry Blast, and El Tequila, who all contributed to that donation. So we thank all of these organizations and community members who stood forward and offered some extra support to the district, so we appreciate that. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the donations as listed. Any further discussion?
Can anyone explain number 3 a little better? Doesn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah, there is some property on the McKinley area. There's a shed that was actually owned by the city that was just given to us. And the
Oh.
value we gave for the shed was $2,000.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So at this time, I am going to turn over the gavel to my vice chair. As I mentioned to I think all of you before the meeting, my daughter is about to start her concert. I just got the text saying they're about to start, so I'm going to head out so that I can see her concert and leave you in the wonderful hands of Mr. Tom Casper, who will chair the rest of the meeting. So I thank you all.
Have a good time.
And I'd like to thank you for finishing all the complex stuff before you. It's power corrupts, or something like that. All right, other committee reports. We have section 9A, the insurance committee listed as no report for this evening. Section 9B, wellness committee, and I believe Anne Marie Leland has a report.
Hello, so wellness, a few things happened at our last meeting. The county, someone who represents the statewide health improvement program, the SHIP, they submitted their 3rd grant to the state of Minnesota, to the Department of Health, and they received their grant. And we are a part of the partnership in that grant. So what they want to do is really partner with us on increasing physical activity within school, after school programs, within school. So they talked a bit about that, and that there will be money available to us and the community around helping to increase that physical activity, and possibly some nutrition pieces as well. Do you have anything else to add to that event? Okay.
What kind of activity do you think it'll be?
Say that again.
Do you have any idea what the activities will be and what grades?
It's anything from buying more equipment or more fitness balls, the things that kids can sit on, and it'll be makes them a little bit more alert in class.
They also discussed doing some work with the staff around recess and indoor recess, and maybe some different activities that they could engage students in.
Is this
inside
at
activities.
K through 12 or at certain level or
It can be K through 12, but this would be elementary.
elementary?
So that would be a great project that we could look at developing with staff.
Great. We also have we haven't announced, but we agreed on the health fair being held at the Faribault Middle School, February 20th, 21st. So we're not quite sure if it's gonna be 1 day or 2 days, but it will be in that time frame. Anything you would like to add to that, Tom? Okay.
No, I think we had lots of great people, team members willing to
Yes.
work on it, so.
Yeah. Next meeting of the wellness team will be December 4th. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Keep her up,
Any-
community ed, might as well follow that.
We'll make her sit down and then she'll have to turn around and go.
Well, you're gonna have to come right back. I believe, item C, 9C is,
Really dramatic, I don't know.
the community education
Yeah.
report.
Okay, so,
Different hats.
we're holding a special community education advisory meeting on the 9th, December 9th. And it is to hear all of the technology plans that are developing. So we'll hear from Maria Hansen, our district technology coordinator, and Colleen Carnudo, our district teaching and learning director. They really are seeking community input on that process. So that'll be a good opportunity to have the advisory council meet on that. And also, Todd mentioned the Path 2, the Early Learning Scholarship Path 2 part, and there's also a Pathway 1 piece to this in terms of giving scholarships to families up to $5,000 to send their kids to McKinley Preschool. So what Christine Gorman has done, our coordinator, she sent out 27 applications and she received 24 back, 24 out of 27. These are low-income families, hardest to serve children, and she is making just tremendous progress in getting that opportunity out to families. So just really applaud her efforts on that. The next regular meeting of community education is January 14th of the new year. And that's it.
Do you want to talk about accreditation process too?
Sure, for
That'd be good.
Kids World?
Yeah.
We met as a team, so Kids World, our school age care program, is going through an accreditation process, which also will make them eligible to receive some of this Pathway 1 tuition. We are in about the middle of the process. We have a great stakeholder team. Several of us, about 6 or 7 people, are meeting to really kind of evaluate the program and determine kind of some improvements to the program. There's things such as just kind of determining more of a welcoming space for the kids, to, I don't know, other examples are just, yeah, if you want to.
Having the kids make some of the decisions.
Yep.
So for some of the different.
Student-led
yep, student-led
activities.
activities, leadership
Yep,
components. Lisa Wetzel is leading the majority
Yes.
of this, so she's doing a good job.
she is. Community education's busy, so doing lots of positive things, so that is a really positive step.
And Marie, do you publish the names of your advisory committee members?
Yes.
Where would I be able to look
They
at
are
that?
on our community education catalog, and they are supposed to be on the website any day now.
But the catalog will have them
Yes.
as well? Okay.
Yep, the back page.
Yeah, I see.
And that catalog is coming out soon.
Is your advisory committee fully staffed or fully
Oh, yes, we
Every-
have about 16 members.
16?
But we will take anybody who wants to join. It's a great group of people. We just added Kim Anderson from the chamber on that
Okay.
committee. Yep. So-
That technology meeting, December 9th, right?
Yes, yeah. It's
what-
before a work session, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
When, where, I mean, that's.
The district office from 4 to 5. So it's right before, yeah, and that's open to anybody. Or any of you, I should say. So, yes. Thanks. Any
further
other questions?
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. All right, item 10, other matters. Before we go any further, I'll appeal to Superintendent Sesker and other board members who might want to help me through the steps, since this is the only action item remaining on our agenda, and I feel extremely inexperienced at trying to lead this. But we are considering the recommendation for the 2013-2015 MAPE contract. And I know there's some information in our packet. Is, Mr. Sesker, is there anything that you think we ought to
Nope,
bring forward other, beyond what we've had in our packet?
nope, we stayed within the parameters that the board set for us, and I thought Nicole did a great job of negotiating the contract with this group, and based on that, we're recommending approval of this new contract for these employees.
How many employees? How many
Okay, now you're gonna put me on the
interpreters?
side, yeah. Get four interpreters, yeah.
Okay.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This does not require a roll call in my.
Nope, but now you
Not a
want,
resolution.
you wanna ask for discussion now.
Discussion.
Any further discussion on the item?
This is for personnel at $18,000 over 2 years, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing no further comments and having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No,
All right,
roll call.
roll call, all right. Mr. Clerk, would you conduct a roll call, please?
I will vote aye. Tom Casper?
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler?
Aye.
Richard Olson?
No.
Jerry Robichaud?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 4 in favor, 1 against. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. All right. I believe that brings us to item 11, other items of information. We appear not to have a student representative here tonight. So are there any school board members that would like to present any information?
Mr. Chair, I attended the play Sunday, and Mr. Sesker was there, and it was a great play. There was so much energy in the students, incredible, especially one,
Yep,
One.
period.
yeah, it was just, you know.
He was what,
It's a-
5 or 6 different characters at
Characters and he
all at
was-
the same time, so it was,
He did an excellent job, an excellent job. It was very funny. I think Howard went to it too.
Yeah, compliments to the directors.
I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Johnson, and one of the great things that he had to say about this experience was the number of students who were relatively new to on-stage performing, who overcame the world's most dreaded thing, and that is speaking in public, at least based on the information and research I have. The dentist and death come in second and third, I believe. But public speaking still seems to be number one. But having been a drama director for about 25 years myself, it's very gratifying to see kids reach out and stretch their limits in that way. So I think that's a great thing. All right. Mr. Sesker, any superintendent information that you'd care to share?
you bet. First of all, I just want to extend our sympathies for Ardith Krog as she goes through a hard time. Her daughter had passed away, so our sympathies to Ardith. Ardith is a paraprofessional up at the school in Roosevelt, so I want to send that out to her. I attended a C meeting last week where I listened to Senator Thompson speak as one of the gubernatorial candidates, as well as other legislative things that could potentially be on the docket. Nothing is set yet. C is just finalizing their platform for this next legislative session. Attended a SPED Ed Dual meeting. The SPED Ed Dual is the meeting that we have with Cheryl Hall and Superintendent Richardson in Northfield. So we meet on a monthly basis to make sure that Cheryl's doing what she's supposed to be doing. Of course she is. But good communication between both districts, and so far things are going well. The accreditation, as Anne Marie talked about, I'm part of that process as well, and we continue to work on that, and hopefully we can get some price breaks for some folks that are going to our Kids World program. Still involved in Faribault Futures. We had our meeting last week. It's a great program, as you know. That's a program within the community of Faribault that is teaching students that are in their different leadership skills, and I get to help plan some of those events. So it's been an enjoyable year with that, working with the chamber. And then finally, we talked a little bit to Colleen Cardenuto and Phil Johnson about presenting the MMR tests, and then also some of the other results with our EL program at the next December board meeting. We'll probably start at the work session to present to the board, and then if we need to go further, we can present it at the open meeting, but we're gonna get that done in December so people know that that's coming up. And that is all I have.
Well, thank you very much. Make a reminder of some dates to remember listed here at the end of our agenda. December 2nd, a week from tonight, I believe, 3:30 p.m. we have the curriculum committee meeting at the district office. December 9th, 7:30 a.m., the finance meeting at the district office. Also on December, well, not on this list, but trying to keep things in order, we have the community ed meeting at 4 o'clock at the district office, and also on December 9th at 5:30 is the next school board work session at the district office. December 10th, I believe a Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. at the policy committee meeting at the district office. And December 16th, 2 weeks from tonight? No, 2 weeks from next Monday night. 3 weeks from tonight. I was an English teacher, please. Excuse me. December 16th, 6:30 p.m., the regular board meeting here at the City Hall Council Chambers. Any last minute bits of information we ought to share? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.